Thank you for tuning in into the Hospitality Harbor. In today's show, we are going to take a look at the front of the house employees facing financial challenges due to the unpredictability of the business. Front of the house employees in the hospitality sectors, including servers, bartenders, and hosts, often encounter numerous financial hurdles due to the nature of their roles. Today, we'll hear insights from two women actively working in hospitality, sharing their experiences with the unique challenges of the restaurant industry. But first, remember to like and subscribe to the channel for more valuable content. Let's explore this topic in a greater depth and confront the pressing issues. The restaurant industry is notorious for its high stress environment, impacting front of the house employees and back of the house staffs, owners, and managers. The intense atmosphere often leads to burnout, anxiety, and exhaustion, making the roles of a server particularly demanding. Stress level can skyrocket when juggling difficult customers, enduring long shifts, and facing unpredictable income. Now, let's hear from Terry.
My name is Terry.
Welcome, Terry. Why do you work in hospitality industry?
All right, I'd say a lot of answers to that, but I'm gonna stick with the top three. And my first answer would be the ability to make more money in half the time.
Okay.
Yes. For a regular 9 to 5, you sit for 8 hours and still not make the percentage of what you make if you were a server. My second answer is freedom. Uh, there aren't any or much binding contracts. You have the ability to, work on your own schedule. So that's the second one. And it's easier to get a job in the hospitality industry based on merit and, versus having stricter rules. For instance, in other professions, it's easy to get a job based on merit or your work ethics. So
Sure.
those would be my top three.
Okay. So the second question I'm going to ask you, what is the most essential part of being a server?
Great service.
Great service.
Great service.
So do you feel like, because of the experience that you're offering the clientele, because a lot of people might walk in with a bad attitude, they might have like a shitty day, but just because your service can turn this person around in a way that it's not even about the food anymore, but that customer service make it all worth it for that person.
Yes, it does. I 100% believe that because a bright smile, don't take anything personal. You don't know what people have going on. Just do your job and do it well. And then what they do is on them. So they cannot say that they didn't get great service. They
Okay.
cannot say that they didn't get great service. So yes, I believe that, giving great service can 100% change a person's outlook on the restaurant or the food because they're not going to enjoy the food if there's not great service. They're going to find something to complain about. So I believe that it's a package deal.
Of course.
Yes,
I
that's
agree.
my belief.
Definitely. So, so the third question I'm going to ask you, does inconsistent so far as income play a role in decision making when applying for a job in the hospitality industry?
It does. However, I believe it's personalized, as in you have to know how to create your own safety net. Because with the freedom of time and the ability to make twice as much in half the time, then the onus is on you to create, savings or buy a retirement package. So it is the inconsistency does play a factor, but it also, as I said, it's personalized. You have to create your own safety net.
Sure, sure. Because like in the industry, there is this off season, just like any other businesses. I think you're right because a lot of people that are in the industry, so far as back of the house or front of the house, for instance, that do get cash tips or that really focus on tips alone. A lot of time, on peak season, they might make a quite a amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and then come, spring breaks, all of this, all of a sudden they just go to spring break and spend all that money, and then come
Right.
back like,
Right.
what am I doing next?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. I think the financial aspect of it is to each his own,
Yes.
because you have to know your budget, balance it to a point where you understand that the rules of 50, 30, and 20.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
um,
Needs, wants,
exactly,
savings.
exactly. So yeah, that's all good. The fourth question and the last question I'm going to ask you, I don't want to take you too long.
Mm-hmm.
What are the pros and cons in working in the industry?
All right. So pro, and as I mentioned before, the ability to make half as much, twice as much money in half the time. So that's a pro. You can always set short-term goals, easily achieve them.
Sure.
So that's a pro for me. As well, the flexibility. So you work less hours, make more money, you have more time to spend with your family. We know how the family structure depend on time, quality time, and so on. And another thing is the ability to learn new skills. Because in the service industry, you can learn to be a bartender, you learn how to be a host, you learn how to cook, you learn
Yeah.
basically you meet people, you learn how to network because you're always talking to people. You don't know who you might meet and where those connections will lead. So those are some of the pros. The cons are the lack of the stability, and we,
Sure.
we, we touched on
I
that
think that's
earlier.
probably the biggest thing in working in
Yes.
the industry is the
Mm-hmm.
lack of the stability. Because, yeah, the pros, you might end up making more money than someone who said, they're a lawyer based on
Mm-hmm.
that peak season.
Right.
And then when that stability, that revenue
Mm-hmm.
is decreased, then you start scratching your head. Damn, what's
Yes.
going on? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
And then there's also the con of a two job scenario. If you're based on the hourly wages that you work as a server, if it's a slow time, then you know that takes away from your time to do personal care or manage your own passion, whatever that is. And also in the long run, it can have effects on your body, your feet,
of course.
varicose veins, you get, you're tired, back pains, and so on and so forth. And my last con would be for this session would be it comes on the instability, because then what if the restaurant that's up and closes one day?
Sure.
So that those so the biggest con would be different branches under the lack of stability.
Yeah. And then
Yes.
a lot of times, too, just to add to what you're saying, a lot of time, the restaurant might close without warning because
Mm-hmm.
especially if there's a point where they feel like, let's say IRS, for instance, come down and seize the place, then it's not just the businesses, but it's everyone that's below
Mm-hmm.
affected by it, though. So now you
Yes.
put a burden on all the employees.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do next? Now I have to find a job, as fast as quick as possible because
Exactly.
the bill doesn't stop because we don't have a
They don't
job.
have a
You know what
job.
I'm saying?
Exactly.
So everything involved around the restaurant or the not just the restaurant but in the hospitality industry in general. Um, I think yeah, you're right with the pros. Um, just the ability to make as much money in less time
Mm-hmm.
it's probably one of the biggest thing why we have so many people drawn to the hospitality business.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But at the same times, the aspect of learning how to budget your own finance play a
Yes.
big role
Mm-hmm.
on the hospitality.
It
Uh,
does. It
so,
does.
anything else you want to say? Let's say somebody want to get into hospitality industry. Would you recommend them to, apply for or start a hospitality, get into it, or
Yes, I would. I would, but then I would also say educate yourself.
right?
Make if the decision that you're making should not just be based on the amount of money that you make.
Sure.
It should be, you should do your pros and cons list. What are your passions? If this is a short term goal versus a long term goal, then that would determine if you want to be a server or not.
Hmm.
So yes, I would say yes. Apply for a server, host, waitress, whatever you want to call it. But do educate yourself
Yeah.
and then make informed decision. Don't
Yeah.
just run into it because of the money.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think, to add what you're saying, I think a lot of people get into the hospitality business. It's probably because they think that, well, they're going to make a lot of money and a peak night. they don't understand the stress level that come
Yes.
with that. Because hospitality is the most
Fast
stressful
pace.
business there is in the
Yes.
world. Period.
Yes. It takes mind, body, soul,
Exactly,
everything.
and
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people they quit after maybe working on a Friday night or on a Saturday night. They're just like, man, forget this. This
Yeah.
stress level
It's
is
not
not
worth it.
it's not adding up to what I'm making though.
Making.
It's not worth it though.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of the cons as well. It's just the stress that
Yeah.
dealing with in the industry.
Hmm.
And so well, I guess what I can say is that if you don't mind stressful environment,
Let's
yeah,
just, if you work well
exactly,
under pressure, you'll be fine.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Terry.
The hospitality industry is one of the most stressful industry to be in. Owners and managers often endure 12 hours work days, and many of the restaurant doesn't offer health insurance. High turnover rates, unreliable employees play major roles. Many front of house employees depend heavily on tips, resulting in on unstable earnings. Seasonal shift can exacerbate income variability, especially in areas heavily reliant on tourism. Low base wages in many regions, workers can earn below minimum wages due to tips credits, making it difficult to meet financial necessities when tips are scarce. Limited benefits, lack of health insurance, retirement plans, and paid time off, forcing employees to cover health care and essentials expenses out of pocket. Job security, the high turnover rates and frequent changes in the hospitality sectors hinder financial planning and job security, as closure or ownership change can lead to sudden layoff. And now it's here. Now let's hear from Aisha.
Okay.
What's your name?
Aisha?
Aisha.
Yes.
Okay. How long you been in the hospitality industry?
Let me say more than 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yep.
So, what do you work in the hospitality industry?
So, I worked in a restaurant before, as a server, and then I also work as a banker,
Mm-hmm.
and then I work as a banker customer service for like 5 years, and then the restaurant, yeah, I think.
So you've been in the industry for a while now.
Yes.
So on and off. Okay.
Yes.
So, what is the most essential part of being a server?
Okay. One, liability.
Nice.
Sometimes you get tip.
So, like
So sometimes people tip according to like the server
the
they like
service?
more,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and no matter if the food is good or the service is good,
Right.
some people if they like you, they like you. You get more
Sure.
tips.
Sure.
So yeah.
And then sometimes you can have somebody walk in with such a bad attitude.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what you try to do. This
Yes.
seems they can't be pleased at all.
No.
And
It's
it
just
just
the
cannot
attitude.
pass. And vice versa. Sometimes you might have someone
They just
walking
walk in
in.
and like you
Exactly.
right away, and
Automatically.
yes,
Yeah.
and
So
you guys start vibing. Yes.
exactly. So my third question is: does inconsistent income play a role in decision making?
I mean, yeah, sometimes, for people like me, I like customers. I like to talk.
Yeah.
I'm a talkative.
Yeah. That's true.
It doesn't matter. So yeah, sometimes it's just like you like being doing what you like to do. So like I always say to myself, I don't want to do something that I don't like.
Sure.
You don't want to wake up and being stressed out. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't like doing
Right.
it. But if you're happy, doing whatever you like doing, I mean, no matter what,
Okay.
yeah,
That's good though. So the last question I'm gonna ask you:
yes.
what are the pros and cons in working in the industry?
So the pros, possibility of high wages, through tips and flexible hours.
That's true.
Your hours are flexible. You can choose what time you want to work.
Yeah.
And for the cons, like
late hours. Yeah, and you have, dealing with the general public. That
Yeah.
is, you're gonna get, care for everyone. So yeah.
Do you think that in the restaurant industry, for instance, the uh, the pros or the amount of tips you're getting is based on certain uh, places? For instance, if you're working on a fine dining restaurant, do you think that the tips will be more versus in a mom and pop kind of restaurant, because you're dealing with a more bigger environment where a
Yes.
lot of time they might have two tables for each server, versus in a mom and pop they
Mm-hmm.
require you to have, like, let's say, five tables per for one person.
Yes.
Do you think that play a big role?
It does.
Okay.
It does, because like if you have like the less table you have, you can concentrate more on your,
The
customers,
guests, yeah.
taking care of them, making sure, because some guests like to be asked and be checking on them.
True.
But if you have like a lot of tables, like you cannot do that at the same time. And some of them will feel like, oh, she doesn't care about us, she's
Right.
just like
Trying to get the money.
moving from one table to the other. Yeah, but if you have like less tables, the more you can concentrate,
Right.
yeah.
But what if because I kind of see two scenarios. Because you might focus on just less tables, but your tips end up being less, though,
That
because
is
you,
true.
you focus directly. And then it varies, because I think sometimes you might, just have less table, make more money, and vice versa. When you work in an environment that is busy, then you make less money in the busier night, and then the slower night you make more money, and then
Yes.
that's where the guest interaction is coming along.
Yes.
So it's not always about just being busy; it's just the
No,
guest satisfaction that
that is true.
amount to how much of tips you're getting, though. Yeah,
And sometimes that's where you make friends, because
correct, though.
some guests, like, you see them like once a week or twice a week, and eventually they become like family,
Sure,
friends. Yeah. So
that's good. You would recommend someone to work in the industry.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, as far as it's all about customer service, and as far as you good in doing customer service, yeah, you know,
That's good.
yep,
All right. So thank you.
you're welcome.
With Madame Aisha.
Uh,
Thanks.
Front of the house often work lengthy hours without compensation for preparation or side tasks, relying on split shifts that extend the workdays without corresponding pay. Personal expenses. Employees frequently bear the cost of their work attire, non-slip shoes, and essential tools, while transportation expenses further strain their budgets. Another one, tax implication. Tips are considered taxable income that employees must report, which can sometimes result in unexpected tax liability in some cases. Employers may underreport tips, affecting future social security benefits. Cost of living pressures in urban regions with thriving restaurant scenes, high living costs, complicated financial situations, making it difficult for front of the house workers or back of the house workers to secure housing and essential goods. Gentrification and inflation may worsen this financial challenge. Burnout and health concerns. The physical demands of the restaurant industry roles can lead to injury or fatigue, forcing employees on to take unpaid leave. Moreover, the mental strain from dealing with the challenging customers and extend shift can negatively affect overall well-being. Now, we all know that running a restaurant is not just about great food. It's about creating an experience that keeps guests coming back in challenging financial times. The front and the back of the house teams play critical roles of the success of any business. Every guest interaction, every upsell, and every seamless services moment contribute directly to the bottom line. We are facing financial hurdles, but challenges are opportunities and digest. By working together, delivering exceptional services, and maximizing sales through smart recommendations, we can help turn things around. Every additional drinks, desserts, or special we sell adds up. Every guest you impress today become a repeat customers tomorrow. Know this, you are not just employees, but the face of the restaurant, the face of the business. Your energy, professionalism, and teamwork will define your future. Let's push through this, support one another, and prove we can overcome any challenge. I want to say a huge thanks to Aisha and Terry from Muscle Restaurant in Kansas City, who take part of making this podcast. Please subscribe, like, and share.